All right. Tim's deep dive. Cat's dropped off.
No, I was
No.
doing it.
Were ya?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll take your word for it.
Can
I
you
can't
do it
see
with a
him
bit
now.
more gusto?
Yeah, can you
or-
put a bit, let's do it again.
Okay.
Tim's deep dive. I need a little bit more passion.
Yeah.
Speaking of passion, let's talk about our halfback this week, Daly Cherry-Evans.
Most popular replacement for Nathan
Really?
Cleary. Yeah, number one. Last time I checked, he was anyway. Might have changed, but I don't think so. So, DCE, we're both owners.
Yeah. You copied me.
You copied me.
You copied me.
Oh, please. I haven't copied you in my life. Mate,
That's why I got no trophies.
5-round average of 71 points for DCE. Prior to that, he had 105 against the Dragons. The man's in form, looking very good. A pretty decent run home for Manly. Finished last year with scores of 71, 146, 153. We were both owners for that run.
We were, yeah.
As we know, though, it was against the Bulldogs and Tigers, who they had thrown in the towel well and truly by that point in the season. They were depleted. They'd given up. They had one leg in Bali.
Yeah.
His last 3 games against the Tigers, scores of 153, 75 and 105, which is interesting because Rando last night had some stats around – his stats were around halfbacks and DCE as well at Leichhardt Oval against the Tigers. So I'd imagine the 2 tons probably came at Brookie. I know the 153 certainly did because it was the end of last year, but – it was like a career average of like 50 or something, and halfbacks have scored really poorly against the Tigers at Leichhardt, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose that more of a talking point than anything, but DCE is a Sammy Walker, as a Cleary trade in. What are your thoughts?
I love Rando to bits, but I'm putting the blinkers on and ignoring all the stats. I think DCE and Manly go huge this week against the West Tigers, unfortunately. I've traded in Sam Walker. I think it is the obvious play, but we've obviously already got DCE. I personally think if I had to pick one of them, I think I would lean towards DCE over Sam Walker. I really would. I think Sam Walker is at a risk of being rested over the next few weeks. I don't think Ches is. I don't think the Manly Seagulls can afford to. I just think that right edge is absolutely humming at the moment. So I would be happy to take a punt on DCE over Sam Walker.
Yeah.
I expected most people to go Sam Walker, but I like the DCE play.
I prefer the Sammy Walker play just because the run is softer. So Ches needs to put points on against the Tigers.
Yep.
I think he needs to, like if you're bringing him in, I think I said last night, a minimum 80 this week, but I think you want him to ton up against the Tigers because he then goes into the Bulldogs and Sharks, which are games for a top 4 position for all 3 of those clubs. So I said he had a good run. It does actually get quite tough after the Tigers. He needs to put points on here. As you said, he won't get rested. Do we think the Roosters could rest or not?
I think if they're going to rest, I think next week's going to be the week. I've always said it, and whether people want to buy into it or not, I just cannot see this club resting against South Sydney. There's just too much on the line there. You can make all the points in the world about common sense about the competition. I just think that game means too much to them. So I reckon there's every chance the Roosters, if they win this week, I haven't had a look at the ladder and how it would all work, but I would assume that if Penrith win this week, it means that the Roosters probably can't get the top 2 finish.
They can. They're only a game behind with, I'll check, but I think a way better for and against.
Yeah, they have got the best for and against, I think, because they've scored
It is,
so many
it's
points.
80 better than the Panthers, and they're a game behind. So, like, particularly if the Panthers do decide to rest a game, they're only one result away from it.
Yeah, fair call.
And the Roosters did have the bye in round 19 and in round 23. So they went bye in round 19, played 20, 21, 22, bye round 23, played obviously round 24. They might rest, but they should be relatively fresh off the back of those 2 byes.
Yeah, I guess if you had to bet on, which one's more likely to get rested, I think you would have to say Sam Walker. But you're right, mate. Maybe it is. Yeah, they really are still in contention, aren't they, to get that? Yeah, okay.
But yeah,
cool.
regardless, if you do have any concerns over it, Ches won't rest. And maybe, in saying that, you get to round 27 and Manly can't move from 5th or 6th. They've got a home semi. Who knows?
Yeah, fair. I guess, mate, like this Sam Walker. Sam Walker just worries me because I've seen the Roosters go big and him not score
Last week.
Yeah, exactly. That's what worries me a little bit.
They've got
But
so many attacking weapons, so it can evade him. He's got low scores in him. I just think with goal kicking, and I think the Roosters put points on in the final 3 weeks, I think that floor lifts just purely because of goals that he'll kick over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, look, I like Sammy Walker. I understand the Cherry-Evans play, though.
you might have started to sway me a little bit.
I normally do.
Maybe. But as a DCE owner, I feel very confident going to the back end of the season. He's
yeah.
really well. I feel good about it. Let's talk about Jacob Liddle from the St. George Illawarra Dragons. I love this guy, man. I'm a big fan.
He is the most under-the-radar player of the season, I'm going to say. So since taking up that 80-minute hooking role in round 10, he's averaged 71.3 in 12 games.
Holy fuck.
I know. He has a 5-round average of 73 points. That's without scoring a try, and he has just 2 assists in that time. Really, really good numbers. As you said, anyone needing a hooker this week, you might be running a Watson-Robson combo. You might have Watson or Robson with like a nuff or something. I think Jacob Liddle's the man because you look at Coruscant has a bye next week. Harry Grant is a huge resting risk. There are concerns with every hooking option. I think Liddle's your man.
Bro, just looking through his numbers. In the last 10 games, he's played Penrith twice. He scored 52 and 72. He's played Melbourne once, he scored 60. He played Canterbury once, he scored 65. He played the Roosters once, he scored 70. And the bloke hasn't gone below 50 in the last 11 weeks. And he's only gone below 60 once.
How good is he going?
He genuinely is the best hooker.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hear any arguments about it. And it's not 3-week form, it's 10-week form. It's half the fucking season.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Like, he definitely doesn't have the ceiling of other hookers, but at the moment, no hookers really have a ceiling.
No one's got a ceiling at the moment.
Nah. And then, look, you look at Damien Cook, who's, I'm really surprised. He's been an 80-minute man almost all season. So they've got Knights into Panthers into Roosters, so a really tough draw. And this goes for Cam Murray as well, but at what point do they just go, all right, we're not getting the wooden spoon, you wouldn't imagine. Their season's done. When are they going to get some more minutes into Mamazelos? And Cam Murray keeps playing 80 as well. Like, why are they running these blokes into the ground?
I don't think they will get minutes into Mamazelos. Like, they've got, this week, next week, then they play the Roosters. Then they're not going to do it against the Roosters, I don't think. So,
I think round 27, like Cookie will probably want is, and they're happy to give him like the big 80-minute farewell on that. But even so, with the tough draw, I think it's Liddle.
No, I just don't think they are going to get minutes into Mamazelos by the looks of it, which is, I agree, it's crazy. But anyway, mate, the next one's a big talking point. Dylan Edwards, obviously no Nathan Cleary out. We assume that means that Edwards takes the goal kicking tee. And just without Nathan Cleary in general, he seems to grow an extra leg. The question will be restings, but you have made a good point about are they far enough ahead of the Roosters to be able to rest? So Dylan Edwards, I won't be making a trade at fullback, but fuck, I can understand the argument to make a trade.
And that's the issue, isn't it? It's with people running any two, essentially, of Turbo, Tedesco, Ponga.
Yeah.
You can't really trade any of them out to get to him. But look, if you've got trades up your sleeve, you want to get a bit leery to finish the season. The key number here is, without Nathan Cleary this season, averages 99.25.
Oh, that's fucked.
And as you said, you'll probably get the goal kicking as well. They have a really soft run home. Serious play.
Is there a world where, as a Turbo owner, you could pick Turbo this week against the West Tigers? He'd be my captain. Then he comes up against 2 harder opposition, including the Canterbury Bulldogs next week. Panthers have a good run. If it looks like they're not going to rest, Turbo Edwards sounds outrageous, but
I get
goal
it.
kicking and stuff.
And the other thing is, Edwards just came back from injury, so I don't think he would rest. I think they would rest blokes who have played a long stretch of games.
I'll tell you what, if something happened this weekend that, like, Teddy got injured, for example, and you traded to Edwards, I would be petrified.
Yeah.
I would be fucking terrified of it.
And, the Tom Turbo round 27 resting is interesting. Like, if Manly are in that 5th, 6th slot, can't go up, can't go down, which is a good chance. Granted, they do play, I think the Sharks might be around 27, so that could sway things. But if it ends up that way, I do wonder if Tommy Turbo gets a rest around 27, in which case a trade up the sleeve for Teddy, Ponga, whoever it might be, would be invaluable.
Yeah, big time. Let's talk about Jerome Hughes, mate, the Melbourne Storm halfback, having an incredible season. My vibe is that he's levelled out a little bit since the return of Cam Munster.
Yeah, 64-point average alongside since Cam Munster returned. 64 against the Panthers, absolutely fine. But the other 3 games where he scored in the 60s as well, Rabbitohs, Dragons, Eels, soft opposition, you would have expected more in that. Sitting at 45% ownership. Like, when you look at Cleary replacements, immediately you go, Jerome Hughes, like, what a great buy. But despite those numbers, with a pretty soft run home, I'd be happy to get him resting risk. It just sounds like they're 2 games clear now, that they probably do give him a spell.
Yeah, I mean, we heard Cheese obviously mention that Harry Grant has said they'll rest him around 26. Play the Dolphins this week at Amy Park. They then have to go to North Queensland to face the Cowboys on a short turnaround Thursday night, and then they play the Broncos at Suncorp. I tend to lean into what Cheese has said, that they will rest in round 26. I think that makes the most sense.
And especially now that the minor premiership, it's not actually secured, because if they did rest and lost a game and then there was an upset, like Brisbane round 27, and if Brisbane are playing for a final spot, like that becomes a huge game all of a sudden, because Reece Walsh and Payne Haas could both return for that. But they do have a 4-point buffer and look pretty safe. So I think there's a rest coming.
I think there's definitely a rest coming, and I think winning the minor premiership would be unreal. But I think as long as they've got a top 1 or 2 spot locked up, which I know they don't 100%.
Yeah, but it looks good.
But it looks pretty damn good. I think if they win this week against the Dolphins, if you're a Jerome Hughes owner, you'll be cheering on a Hughesy big game this weekend into a Dolphins victory, I think.
And yeah, as you said, like, the minor premiership's the minor premiership, but it's $200K prize. They've got the home semi locked up regardless. It doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say if you are looking to buy Jerome Hughes, or if you're a Hughesy owner, just keep an eye on next week, because if he does get rested and you're also a Galvin owner, you're going to be very, very short in your halves.
Well, there'll be a lot out there with running a Cleary and Hughes combo without trades. So they're...
And that's assuming Cody Walker's back next week, which he might not be. So
imagine imagine having Hughes Cleary, which, well, I mean, he's 45% ownership, and Cleary was like essentially 100%.
Hughes at 45%.
Yeah, it surprised me. Hey, amongst top 10%. So he's 45. So then you add in Galvin by next week, Cody Walker. It was a head knock, so probably returns, but also they're playing for nothing. Like, imagine you could have people have no halves next week.
Fuck, that's interesting. How good is the back end of the season?